I was getting really worried last night when I was recording with somebody else that I was like, oh my God, I bought this computer like last year.
No,
this thing's going out. I'm going to lose it. But that's not the case. So that's awesome. All right. I am here with Hayloft out of Nashville, Tennessee, which for some reason I still think, despite visiting there numerous times, is the Eastern time zone, but that's not the case at all. So first and foremost, I want you, because I know it's been at least from when I talked with you a little bit. Seems like there's been a slight lineup change, right, since the last we chatted. So why don't we go from your guys' right to left and just introduce yourself and what you do in the band.
Well, I'll start. I'm Paul, and I'm the newest member to Hayloft, and I'm playing the drums. So happy to be here. Happy to be here on the podcast, and yeah, just the band at large.
My name's Emilio. I'm the second newest member, and I play bass, and I am also happy to be here.
I'm Kaiser. I've been here a while, and I sing and play various knickknacks.
I'm Dov. I'm founding member, one of the two, and I play guitar. And I guess it's all right to be here, you know?
Kind of, sort of, okay.
I appreciate the honesty.
Some days are better than others, you know?
Well, again, we're here with Hayloft to break down their upcoming record that comes out exactly. You told me at one point, but we've also done this before, and I was wrong on that. So, when does the record come out?
April 25th, available anywhere you stream music.
Yeah.
Awesome. So this episode is going to come out the same week, or no, the following Monday. So the record will be out. Yeah, it's already out. Go listen to all of it. You don't need to hear us break this down for an hour or so. You just need to go check out the awesome record and then come back and check out the details.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, if you haven't heard it, go check out Tomato, and then come back and listen to the breakdown. But I'm happy to have you all on here. Obviously, for people that don't know, because I didn't obviously put out the previous recording, we have discussed much of this before, but luckily it's been long enough that my brain doesn't remember anything that we talked about. So it'll be like we talked about it for the first time. Absolutely excited. I made sure to, obviously, I've listened through the record several times over the past several months. Re-listen through it again with like fresh ears today and in my commutes and like during my work day. And I just have to say, first and foremost, I'm sure I said something like this when we first kind of did an initial recording on this, but I love that you all are able to incorporate sort of like a prog feel with indie rock and pop sensibilities and like a conventional song length. Right? Like I'm somebody personally that loves, like I listen to Tool, I listen to Dream Theater, right? I listen to everything in different eras of like progressive metal, progressive rock, all that good stuff, where they'll put out a 14-minute song. And I personally love log songs and all that good stuff, but I love finding bands like you all that are able to kind of bring in those sensibilities and put it to like a more like I say this in a positive, accessible way. You know what I'm saying? Where we're like, not everybody's into like the 8-minute song bit to hear some like kind of proggy tones and instrumentation. So I really, really love this record. I'm happy that it's finally coming out, because I think when we last chatted, it was initially going to come out in October.
Yeah.
But if my memory serves me right, but I'm absolutely ecstatic for this record to come out. I think it's gonna make some waves big time. But I do want to ask first and foremost, since this is our second kind of chat about this, and I'm sure people would find this interesting, what was the decision to change a release date from fall of 2024 to spring of 2025? Because that's like almost a roughly 6-month change. So I guess like whether it's a Business Insider thing or a promotion thing, I think people might find it interesting. Why the change?
Where do we start? Yeah.
I think we kind of, the short answer would be, we kind of made a decision just like, hey, let's put this out. We would love this to be out in as soon as possible. That'd be really cool. And then we actually sat down and thought about it, and we're like, wait, we should actually be smart about this and like release a couple singles first. We should, do the whole promotion kind of thing. And at that point, we had just really done the big personnel change where we did like more than half the band just then. Mm-hmm. And so we were just trying to hit the ground running as fast as possible. And so we just slowed down a second and said, let's be smart.
We hadn't really played any shows yet. We were we like barely had any pictures of us together. We just realized, let's do one song at a time, maybe put out an EP, and then release the full record in the spring. And so that's what we did and why we did it. And I'm really happy with the decision.
Yeah, I think it's the best move we could have made.
Yeah.
Walk before you run type thing, Otherwise, you just trip over yourself.
Yeah, I think that's really smart that you all did that, because I think in this day and age, a lot of modern bands have this mentality, kind of what you're talking about, where it's like, we got to get songs out as quick as possible. We got to have the content. We got to, content is like the name of the game, unfortunately, with music a lot of the times. And yet at the same time, when you've got really well produced music that you all have, and I think like in a good way, like more unique, probably, I'm sure, in your local scene and like up and coming bands at large, I think it's good to kind of like take the time to promote it, right? Like, so that's cool. That makes a lot of sense. That's like a smart business move, which like it's tough to do in like the content creator era of music, unfortunately, right?
Right.
So I really appreciate that you guys made that decision, because I'm sure at the time you're like, fuck that, I want this out yesterday, right?
Yeah.
It's tough, but you got to think of it as, it's either a hobby or it's more than that, right? So
Right.
like, make your choice.
Right, and there's people that will do like the, there's I've had on a lot, this will probably be close to the 90th episode that I put out, and yeah, and you talk to all kinds of, I talked to a guy that like was a prolific singer-songwriter that was putting out a song every 2 weeks for a year, right? But that worked for him, right? Because he's sort of more of like a one-stop shop, like in his bedroom type producer, and then he got to start playing shows because he was prolific and got his, but at the same time, when you've got the music that you all do that's much more intricate,
Sure.
obviously takes like a lot of moving parts, it's good to take the time to promote each and every song and find the best way to release. So that's great, and that's smart on you guys. That's actually like a very mature decision to make. So let's go from the top here, and kind of before we get into Tomato, I'm sure there's a lot to break down. Record's very dynamic, clearly has a lot of influences all over the place. I know that we talked in the past that there's a lot of influences from band member to band member that are very different. But first and foremost, where did this project Hayloft come from? I know, you put out the EP that was essentially a teaser for the album to come. You've had great success in my view from your No Wonder single release that seemed to make a lot more waves and kind of be the next leg up for you all. But going back from that, where did the project of Hayloft come from? And just kind of speak to that a little bit.
Sure. I can speak to that. About 5 or 6 years ago, I was working in a restaurant, as many musicians are apt to do. I was kind of being a hired gun for other people. I played bass. I played country. The money was good. The people were fine. The music was boring as shit. I was tired of it. And so I just wanted to do something.
Such a hater.
Hey, look, sometimes country music is beautiful. It's 3 chords in the
You're
truth.
in Nashville, man. You got to be okay with the acoustic country cover of whatever pop song it is in every bar on Broadway.
I will say this. There's been a resurgence lately of really good country, and I'm here for it. There's a bunch of really good stuff coming out lately, so I will say that. But for me at the time, I was tired of playing, bass, and there's 4 chords in the song, and I'm just like, my brain is writing songs while I'm playing another one. So anyways, I met Dov, and I met this other guy named Mike working at a restaurant, and we kind of hit it off musically. There's a band called Everything that I was like, oh, you guys listen to them too? Holy crap. And we kind of geeked out about them and showed them a demo. We ended up fleshing it out together and kind of caught a vibe and wrote some more songs, sent some more demos, and came out with 11 songs, and 10 of them made the records.
Yeah, that's kind of what we talked about last time. I think we might have talked about 11 tracks, and it got whittled down to 10. Very cool. And first and foremost, I think that's like the struggle for a lot of people, especially in a scene like Nashville, which I think is like still the up and coming. I mean, it's become a big bed of the music scene, right? And not just the music scene, like the entertainment scene at large. But it's still growing. I've got a family member that's a professional musician in Nashville, and he'll talk about that like every year it just feels like more is growing and more is growing. And like he'll talk about that it's not always good for him, right? Like he's been there for about a decade, and it's like, man, all this shit's coming in and there's a lot more competition. And like I could see from your perspective that like you're playing these, I'm whether it was originals or covers. I've been to Nashville numerous times. I know that there's like there's a big there's both like a big real alternative music space and space for like like great creative singer-songwriters and all that kind of stuff. There's also a big bed of cover songs for country on I think it's Broadway is the street, right?
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff. So there's like kind of these two different sects, and like most people that want to make their own music end up doing the bar scene and doing like, I remember I was down there and I saw somebody doing like an acoustic cover of an Iggy Azalea song, and I could tell that the singer was doing great and she just hated her life while she was doing it. It can become soulless, it can become that very quick because there's that sort of tourist
I'll say
aspect to it,
though,
right?
I did learn a lot in those days. It took me all over the world. I did a USO tour. Like I played probably 20 or 25 states, so it was like I actually played very little in Nashville, and
Okay.
that was good for me to like kind of hone some chops on the performance side of things, learn what it takes to put a live show together at a high level, playing festival stages and stuff, and everything from a dive bar to 4 people to a big stage to 10,000 and everything in between. So it's like when it became our turn to write and play music that we like, we kind of, a few of us in this band, Emilio and Paul, and I know Dov, have seen and been a part of what it takes to push it to the next level. And so that's really what we're trying to do with this project. It's like, yeah, we can play gigs around town, but that's not really what we're striving for ultimately. We're trying to push it.
So for all four, it sounds like all four of you have kind of been in that space to some degree. It's like, do you feel, before we get into some of the music and where the band's going, do you feel that kind of being immersed in that sort of culture where like, a lot of hired guns do come out of Nashville, and you, like you said, you'll play in every other place but Nashville a lot of times, all that kind of stuff. Do you find that kind of like professional musician aspect, like what have you found that kind of like pulls in your perspective of like approaching your own band, your own original music in a different professional way than maybe some other people in the DIY space might? Like you kind of get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So many variables to consider, man. Like it depends how mature the person is. If they're really early in their career and they believe that they're going to play some bar on Broadway and be discovered tomorrow and be the next big star, it's not going to happen, buddy. Maybe if you win the lottery, but like that's not really the thing. But if you do that for a while, or if you're lucky and you're on the road for a while and you pay your dues, then that's all well and good. Maybe your original stuff never takes off. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But how much work did you put into that versus the time and mental capacity you had putting in the work for all of the cover band stuff? You only have so many hours in a day, so much energy in your life. You burn out quick, and then you have to consider, okay, is music still what it was for me before?
Yeah, right.
Like, why am I fucking doing this? And does it make more sense to then have a part-time gig and sell fucking Jamba Juice or something and then still work on your original? There's so many variables, man. And it really, in my opinion, depends on the person and where they are in life and where they are right here for them to ultimately succeed, whatever that means for them,
I think that's such an important part of like so many people I've known that are like way better. I'm like an amateur musician myself. I primarily do it like right where you're seeing me. I record vocals and guitar right where I'm at.
You're good though, man. I just saw you post something the other day. It was like some on acoustic. It was like this dark sort of vibe, and you're posting some stuff about the news going on. You got chops. Don't put yourself down.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I used to do a lot more than I do now, but life, like as you said, life finds a way of bringing you down. But what I mean is like I think I've known so many people, so many talented people that try to just do the grind of like, it's such a cliche of working smart, not hard, right? A lot of people work really, really hard and burn themselves out, and next thing you know, they don't even want to fucking pick up a guitar anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I'm sure in Nashville, where again you're just immersed like percentage wise, even compared to Chicago area where I'm from, of just so many more musicians wanting to quote unquote make it, and whatever make it means is very different for everybody. But yeah, I mean that's such a good point that like if you're doing music nonstop as your job day in and day out, playing 4 chords on a bass or whatever it is, or doing maybe like 2 shows a night on Broadway doing cover sets and all this kind of stuff, how much time do you really have to then sit down in front of whether you sit down with your bandmate?
what you just said is very important because with that example, that specific example you just said, 2 shows a night, each show is a shift. Each shift
4-hour
4
shift.
fucking hours without a break, dude. So if you're doing, whether it's 2 consecutive, that's 8 hours consecutive of playing shit that you might or might not hate, you know?
Passing around tip jar.
And then you're done for the day, man. What are you going to do? Like, you're going to put how much energy into your own shit when? Tomorrow when you have another shift? Like, it's hard, bro. You know?
Yeah. I think it's just people really need to think about it's not just time. It's like brain capacity of like your creative juices. You know what I mean? Like it's a very tough thing to juggle. And I think when you're not, you know, I don't know all your guys' ages, but when you're not like right out of the gate of college and 21, 22 years old, trying to, you know, and really starting to think smart about this stuff, it can make a big difference, right? Yeah. So that kind of brings us to this record coming out. Obviously, like as you said, Hayloft has put out a couple of these different tracks, both as an EP early last year. It would have been, I think, was it July or June that you put that out? No Measure of Health, right? July 26th is at least what it says on Spotify. So you put that out, then you've also got your single for Loud and then No Wonder leading up to Tomato Tomato, which again is coming out on the 25th. Getting to this point with this record, you know, we've talked a little bit about the rollout and you guys making the smart, mature decision to wait on it when you wanted it out, like I said, probably like 2 weeks before it was even ready in October. What kind of went into this record for you all? What's the songwriting process like in general? And then we can kind of maybe do a track by track for you all.
Take it off.
Yeah, I mean, it actually goes back to what you said with you being into like the big prog epics and those bands that do a lot. That's what I listen to. That's my part of the sort of band Venn diagram here. And so when we were going into writing this and just continuing to, and we've written more since, we always have that mindset of we want to push the envelope a little bit, but we always want it to be accessible. We don't want to get too masturbatory. We just want to be like, put out good music. So we took at the time Kaiser's demos that were just him on an acoustic guitar and like his phone in front of him.
Usually very out of tune, like real
just
janky.
like, yeah, honestly, none of those recordings were even like any good quality, but we took them because they were good songs. We heard the like good potential with them.
Or the skeleton, right?
Yeah. There was heart. So we took those and just kept playing the game of yes and. That was back in when we first started, we were still learning each other and we were still learning the music. We were trying to like figure out where we were going. So it was slow at first of just like, let's push this. Let's keep doing this. Let's keep going with that. Oh, we can go a different genre here. And we kept pushing it until we said, okay, that's too much. And then we would land on these songs. Some of them hit pretty instantly of like, we found it. And some of them, like, in fact, No Wonder, which, as you said, to date, pre this album coming out, has done best by a long shot, actually. Yeah. No Wonder was, I want to say 6, maybe 7 iterations of different genres, different keys, different instrumentations that we were playing with until we finally found what it became.
Yeah.
I wrote it to have a different vocalist sing on it.
Yeah.
We were going to have a girl come in and sing it.
Right.
You know, that's the song, and it kind of got Frankensteined in the best way. You know, to date, I still think like if I had my way, it wouldn't have made the record because I didn't like it at all. And so it's funny to see that that's the one that popped off, you know.
But yeah, I guess before we get into breaking down the record, I would like to hear from each one of you because, again, I remember this vaguely from us chatting in the past. I'll stop referencing that because no one listening to this is going to know what the fuck I'm talking about. But I remember talking to each one of you individually that like it was very clear that all of you had very different influences that would come into play into these songs. And I think that's very clear again with how the songs are delivered. And I know Paul's the newest member of the band, was not from my understanding like on the recordings, but it would still be good to hear as a member of the band that joins is like on board with the music, like the influences that you have and your perspective there. So I'll start with Dav and then go across. Just kind of give me if you have 2 or 3 like biggest paramount influences for what you're writing, what do you bring to what's your perspective there when you're bringing Hayloft songs to the table? Like what like influences you the most as a musician?
Yeah, like I said, my main like sweet spot is those prog and prog metal I love that stuff. I, in fact, found my passion through music with the early Dream Theater. That was my
Yeah.
biggest kind of like images and words, all the way up to like Octavarium and so forth. That's where I found music. So that would probably be my biggest influence in terms of writing. But then I'll go with I'll throw them out. Epica just had a new album come out. I've been listening to the crap out of that. Symphony X, and all the bands you mentioned. I think I've seen all of those live.
He's also got T-shirts with most of them on it. Too,
Yeah.
So
Yeah. LAT, them.
Are
But
you random? Are you a Periphery guy? Are you a Periphery enjoyer or hater? That's a proud question right there. You know?
It's in between. I like them, but I never got into them. I never like actively put on a record of theirs. But yeah, my college roommates loved them, and so I heard so much Periphery, and they're great. I just never got into them myself.
That's fair. That's fair. Kaiser, to you.
yeah, sure. I think when you hear Dov and you hear Emilio and Paul, you'll definitely understand that I bring the accessibility part of this Venn diagram. You know, I listen to bands like Nothing But Thieves. You know, we already mentioned Everything, Everything. I'm really into Sam Fender, you know, people that have a message, but, you know, maybe the lyrics and the message are first and the music is second. But I also really love the prog stuff. Like we talked about Dream Theater. We talk about Porcupine Tree. Like there's
Porcupine Tree is so good. Yeah.
tons of stuff out there. I mean, Willow Smith just had a record that came out last year. Will Smith's daughter that freaking rocks my socks off, you know? So I'm all over the place, man. But if you want to talk about vocals, the consistent feedback, which is always ringing true, is a Jeff Buckley nod. And it certainly is. So that's kind of my vibe. And yeah, to hear you say that we are a little bit prog, but definitely accessible is like just music to my ears. It warms my soul because that's what we're trying to be. So thank you that telling me that comes through.
Absolutely. And to hear like a Jeff Buckley, you know, comparison, that's got to feel great, right? Because like talk about an iconic songwriter that, you know, just that, you know, like it's just, sometimes I forget to go back to Jeff Buckley records and then somebody mentions it and then I'll listen to him for the next week because just something about it. I don't care what kind of music you listen to, you're going to enjoy that. You know what I mean?
That inside if you're not.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, yeah. What you got, E?
Man, so to be clear, second newest member, like I said, I'm not on the record. I feel like I've played it enough with these guys so far that I might as well have been.
Yeah.
But my what I bring to the table, I feel anyway, it's interesting too. Like, so fun fact, I'm a guitar player primarily, even though I'm playing bass here. Definitely am glad to be because I've been a working musician for many, many years, since 99. I'm the oldest member too. So I'll say that, fun fact number 2. But man, everything from like Latin music to funk and R&B to like all kinds of shows and gigs that I've performed, like all of that still lives inside me, you know? And it's almost perfect that I feel that I'm playing bass now, because I feel like what I bring is much more of that. There's something without a groove that really just like, I don't know, man, it just envelops everything inside of you and it makes you move a certain way. Being a part of that really fulfills me right now in this space. The best that I can articulate it is, without taking any groove away from the drummer here. I mean, we're kind of like eggs and bacon, you know, like
right.
The groove is here. I think that's kind of what I bring, you know. I didn't necessarily come up listening to prog or anything like that. I mean, the proggiest I got into was like Rush, you know.
Well, pretty proggy. So, yeah.
But a prog guy would play differently, maybe, right? But like,
yeah.
You know, I came up with like, you know, Eddie Van Halen and like Aerosmith and like, you know, that vibe. But then also I would listen to like, you know, D'Angelo and like, all, you know, that's where I come from. Anyway, I'll hand it off. That's kind of.
Well, before you hand it off though, first of all, the bass in these songs is no joke that you have to play either. You're not doing, as what Kaiser said, you're not playing 4 chord
No.
progressions at all. It's
No, not
very complex.
But
You know?
making it accessible in my mind also means that someone can actually relate to it. Like
Yes, yeah.
a normie can relate to it.
I'll tell you a funny story real quick. It was like maybe your second rehearsal, third rehearsal with us. We're playing Dogs. You know that Dogs, it has that crazy da 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 da.
Yeah.
He was learning that lick, and he looked at me and he goes, "Kaiser, did you write that lick?" I was like, "No," and I pointed to Dov, and he looked Dov in the face and he goes, "Fuck you, man."
Well, or even like your opener on the record "Loud," which you put out as a single. Like your record starts off with a bass riff.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like it's like very bass heavy, and like that's cool. Like yeah. Big dick man in the room. Yeah, no, but seriously, like that's like it's not like it adds a lot to the music, and like obviously something that I appreciate about the band is that you take focus onto the rhythm section, right? Like so many, I play in sort of like, again, not to talk about myself or whatever, but like I do like a lot of more of the modern metalcore, new metal, like all that kind of stuff. And like the good bands always still do that. They still have like a real care for the rhythm section, and the cliche bands have the bass player doing an octave lower over what the guitar player's doing at all times, right? And so I always appreciate that when you can hear like a distinction in the music and you're actually letting each player play their part. And like again, I know you're not playing, but you're playing the songs live and you're so embedded in the music now. You're part of it,
for sure.
That like that part of the band is so important that it like it speaks so a lot to your musicianship, like delivering these songs with them in like the live avenue.
And we're writing new songs too. They're going to be released after this record, so keep an eye for that, and then you'll hear more of E and Paul too.
Yeah. I'll be stoked for that too. And Paul, we'll go to you.
Sure. Well, as I just said, I'm not on this record. I'm not in Tomato, but we are actively working on new tunes. I'm really excited to bring my own approach to music to that. And so, yeah, to describe that, my background is definitely coming from originally like a jazz background. I've got a family of jazz musicians, and so I grew up listening to that music before I ever decided to play it. So learned to play jazz drum set first, and it's definitely influences like everything I do. But I also have some classical training, classical percussion. So I've played in with various orchestras and like smaller chamber music. So very disparate music, and not at all in the vein of this band. But I still grew up listening to, I'm a child of the 90s, and I'm from the Pacific Northwest. Grunge is more than just a style of music out there, to be totally honest. And so like, I don't know, I really identified with that music, and it's influenced me. And I think like the first album I actually bought with my own money was The Color and Shape by the Foo Fighters.
Yeah, dude.
I love that style of drumming. Like Taylor Hawkins, I think influences me more than I realized, and I realize that more and more as time goes on. But I also then played with like kind of a ska punk rock swing band.
Nice.
And I realized that like I love so many types of music, and I love avenues where I'm able to realize how all these things influence it, and like what elements from these different experiences like contribute to the music I'm currently playing. And so what's great about this band for me, granted I'm still very new here, is that I love being a musician's drummer, not a drummer's drummer. And what I mean by that is I love supporting like the goal of the specific song being played. And there are so many songs that this band has written that like just need that. And I love doing that. But at the same time, like I said, my background is in like improvisatory music, and I like having avenues to do that. And I've never had that in a band that kind of like hits as heavy as I would say this one does. And so it's really fun to play some of these songs, and I think more so some of these newer ones where there's lots of room for the drums to kind of improvise throughout what the band is playing. And that was the thing I said, like when I initially hooked up with these guys, I was like, man, I see so much room for opportunity here and like self-expression playing the drums while still playing music that is really accessible. And that's something that I've never had. The music I've had where I've been able to tap into that element of my playing, it's just not popular music. So,
Right.
So anyways, that's a bit like, about my background, but also why I like this music and why I'm really excited to be here.
When E was saying earlier, like what you're looking for, there's a lot of things to consider. Like it's that. We're looking for that. It's like the ability to listen and dial back when you need to dial back and come to the front when you need to come to the front. Like you can teach that, but also some people just have it. So it's like that's super important, and I think a common thread between the 4 people on this call right now.
Well, it kind of gives you guys the opportunity if you get comfortable. I'm not telling you what to do right now, just as an FYI, but like you get comfortable enough. You're all trained musicians. You could like, especially when you play these songs more and more and more and more, or add some new ones. There's areas where you can do a little bit of improvisation at a live show where it's like people are getting a different version of that song specifically that day. And I think everybody, even with like the most popular bands you listen to, people appreciate when that sort of happens, right? That because like in modern music, for good reason, there's a lot of great bands now that everything's very much, especially if they've got like click tracks or whatever else that like, you're on a metronome, you're on a grid, you got to do this and that. And like they do it to a T and it's fantastic. But there's the other side of things too, where like, if you can do a little bit of a different drum fill here or there, you can add in a little bit of different instrumentation here or there and have that push and pull, what all of our favorite bands, did back in the day. I'm going to sound like a dinosaur here, but back in the day, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of like the fun of live is like, it's not what's on the record, right? It's mostly what's on the record, but there's a little, you can add a little attitude that day. Maybe you're feeling, as Paul is the drummer, maybe you're a little angry about something that day. You can go a little harder on a drum fill, or you can go a little harder on the attack on some different things. And like, you get what I'm saying? Like, yeah. I mean, I think that's cool that you all, since you're such like adept musicians, that's something that could potentially be there for you when you do live shows too,
Yeah, and it's been cool to explore that in the past, 8 or 9 months that we've been playing.
You're fine.
Live music is a conversation between the people on stage and the people off stage. Like you said, I think that point is lost a lot. So we're happy to tap into that as much as we can.
Absolutely. I could talk to you guys all about this like for forever, and I really appreciate your time. I don't want to make you guys stay here for forever. So what I do want to make sure to take time to is break down the record to Tomato, which is coming out April 25th. It's already out. That's right. I'm so bad at that when I record these things. The record is already out. Go check it out now. But you've had Loud, you've had Adjusted, Escape, Banner Fire, No Wonder. I think Dragon Lamps as well have all been out to varying degrees from this record. So you've had like quite a few singles, as well as that kind of precursor EP that is going to be in the album. What was, I know that this record has been a long time coming in some ways for you guys, but was there anything particular that you were focusing on when you were making this, as far as like the production, the writing process, everything in between? Like, what was sort of like the I don't know, mission statement, for lack of a better word, for this record? For the man, I just jumbled on my words there, but you know what I'm saying? Like, what was the overall picture here for this? Was there anything specific you were alluding to? Was it just a collection of songs that you were able to put together in a cohesive manner? Just kind of speak to it broadly.
Finding our sounds, the 3 of us at the time, was the most of it. It was Dov, myself, and Mike Emmerich, who very talented musician, multi-instrumentalist, great drummer. He moved to New Jersey, so he's no longer part of the project, but wrote all the songs with Dov and I and recorded them. And so like Dov said earlier, a lot of it was doing iteration after iteration, kind of Frankensteining songs until they hit a groove, and then saying, okay, that's something. And then you hold on to that and write the next one, and then you establish some sort of common thread throughout the album. And I think the thread that you've alluded to already is like, accessible prog, like, trying to be accessible to the average Joe, and then also a little nod to those of us who like the 24-minute epic song, so yeah, that's what I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Another thing I always tried to like, just a specific thing that I tried to always do when writing and listening back to our songs was imagine someone like putting it on in the background. They're doing homework, they're at work, they're whatever they're doing, reading a book, and not paying attention to it and still enjoying it. But they can also say, no, now I'm listening to music, and they can put on those same songs and still enjoy it. And having that as a specific thing that I could work towards sonically was helpful a lot of the time.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense, and I think it's really well articulated in this record. What I'd like to do is we'll go through here. I won't make you guys spend an inordinate amount of time on each song, but we'll go from Dav and kind of go across on my screen here all the way to Paul, and just, we'll talk both from the perspective of the 2 people that did the recording process of the record, and also 2 members of the band that are playing these songs, member of the bands, and like your perspective on these as well, because I think that's almost sometimes more important, right? Your musicians are playing this that weren't a part of it, and like what you think about it sometimes can say a lot of what other people will think about it as well. So let's start off with Loud. Again, a single that you guys put out before. Like I said, starts off with a pretty great bass lick, dives into a pretty great like anthemic song. So Dav, kind of speak to, from your perspective, anything you can give to this song. And obviously, I'm guessing Kaiser, you wrote most of the lyrics, so you can kind of give the lyrical aspect and we can go down from there.
Yeah, this was a song that was just kind of balls to the wall. We wanted to, there's not really a time. It was very obviously the first song on the record, even before there was a record. It was like, that's first, and we're going to come out the gates just going. And so we did that, and it was great fun. But then we did the yes and kind of thing that I had mentioned before, where we just put in random key changes.
Yeah.
Where we were just like, this wouldn't sound good, would it? And we tried it, and we all wanted to hate it. I remember that day specifically being like, this is gonna suck. This is such a bad idea, guys. And we did it, and we all just said, oh, okay, well, that's great.
Was that the first one when it goes from E to F?
Yeah, we go to, we change songs, or we change keys. Yeah, we change keys before any vocals come in. And again, this is not a prog song. This is a 3-minute blast.
Sure, it's not. Yeah.
So yeah, we just kept trying to push that, but like really just straight keep going.
There's a lot of angst in this song. If I remember right, the current president was just elected to his first term, and we're all kind of pissed about it, even though that term was relatively fine comparatively, but I don't want to go on a tangent.
Yeah.
So I have lines in there like, if you grab a you'll in the office. So like direct reference there, it's all about just rallying people to get mad at things that are worthy to be mad about. Just turn it up, be loud, don't let anybody tell you to shut up. Like there's shit that's wrong and we need to point at it.
It's definitely the song on the record. Not that there aren't others, but you come into it and you're like, yeah, this one has a little bit of a, definitely like a in your face commentary for sure. And like, I appreciate it because like you have that in there, and yet, first and foremost, the song is catchy and fun. Yeah. And but you could still kind of hear those elements into it, like, which is good, right? It's like some of the most iconic punk rock, pop punk, indie rock bands, when they put out a song like that, it's like, first and foremost, it's a good song, and the lyrics like kind of put it over the top in that vein. So yeah, I absolutely noticed that, like in the first listen to it, and it definitely delivers in the song while still like keeping it like an energetic anthemic song. You know what I mean?
Well, thank you. And the last thing I'll say real quick before I pass it to E is I wish I could show you the voice memo that I sent Dov and Mike, because it was not that. It was like this swampy on an acoustic guitar. Like it was not that. And I'm so glad that like...
It was like 2/3 the tempo.
Maybe if that. I'm so glad they took it and Dov was like, what if we double it? Best thing to happen.
So the question is, what the song means to me? Is that what we're doing now?
Yeah. Just kind of your thoughts on it. Like, it doesn't have to be much. It could be a song sick. It's one I like to play or whatever. Yeah.
Song sick.
Yeah. Song's dope. My bass line's fire.
Yeah.
No. Kind of what was stated earlier just now. It's fun. It's balls to the wall. All that. It definitely speaks to my 17-year-old angsty, self that just wants to just go out there and break shit and, do all that. I never listen to lyrics, so I have no idea.
There's a crowd.
Spoken like a true working musician. Yeah, that you don't even know.
I know what the lyrics are now, but
yeah, of course.
Yeah. But no, yeah, it's just that fun kind of just balls to the wall. Let's fucking have a good time. This is like you said, it's even if you don't know that there is an album, it's definitely a first fucking entry into a thing.
Yeah.
And
we've led, I think, every show with it too.
I think we've started, if not all, most.
Yeah.
With that song. It's
that's I had on one of my favorite bands on the show. It's for like the band Silverstein. I had their singer on who's from like kind of an emo post-hardcore band, and he's always put out like, if your first song on your record can't be an opener for your show, you fucked up. Like, and it's like I agree. Actually, that's like a really good point. But all right, and then Paul.
Yeah. I think, well, at least in my experience as a drummer, you're always having to learn to have self-control and dial things back. And it is great to have an opener where you don't need to do so.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think I'll just leave it at that. It's just doubling down on what he said. It's fun. It's aggressive. It's titled loud. And like, as a drummer, you just love being able to cut loose. And like, in my opinion, you're not doing a service to the music if you're doing that all the time. But it is awesome to have a song where like it really is just, it embodies that like orally, but it also embodies that lyrically as well. So to me, it's just like a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go to the second track, Escape. Again, starting with Dav. Just your thoughts on it.
Yeah, this might be one of the ones I have least to say about it. This was just kind of like keeping up the energy. It felt like a good second song to like. It feels like I used to also play in a post-hardcore band that song would kind of fit a little bit. And it felt like just smacking stuff, but so just kept the energy up for me. Very cool.
I was listening to a lot of Nothing But Thieves when I wrote this song.
Yeah.
Like it, for the Nothing
I
But
can
Thieves.
hear that a little bit. Yeah.
It comes through, I think. Yeah, but this song is about
Lyrically, it's very cool.
escapism and all the various ways that we just try to disassociate. Sometimes it's drugs, sometimes it's reading a book, sometimes it's going to a rock show, sometimes it's getting drunk, sometimes it's taking a nap. And it's like, those are all valid in their own ways. Some of them have very big cons, some of them have very, very big pros, but they're all ways and we all do them. So it's just acknowledging escapism as like an entity. That's kind of what the chorus is about. I am what it is you run from. I am knocking at your door. Like, it's always going to be there. So
I like that. I like that you also are comparing all those things, because it is all coming from the same place, right? Like, of just whether it's escaping from real things or just escaping from like, real like world changing things, or escaping from like you working a 12-hour shift that was hell, right? Like, that's a very universally like, what's the word I'm looking for? Accessible is not the word I'm looking for. I can't think of word. Yeah. It's just like, I think anybody can identify with sort of escapism on a day-to-day basis. So that's very cool. Relatable was, God, I'm a teacher, and when I can't think of vocabulary words, that's not good.
Think of one word.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't have my Google thesaurus out for right now for when I'm writing lyrics. Yeah. But what about you? What are your thoughts on this?
For me, this tune is more of a musical thing for me, where it's interesting to me, particularly, to come to the realization that it's okay to use a pick when you play the bass.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. I don't have to feel bad about it.
Yeah,
I feel like this particular tune, sure, can be played, fingerstyle, whatever, but it almost necessitates that
100%.
pick, that specific, that sound you have when you play with a pick aggressively, especially for some of those runs and stuff.
Yeah.
That we're simultaneously doing and whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, it's like I'm just playing a really fucking low tune.
Yeah.
And just
Every skater punk bassist is really confused right now, because they didn't know that you don't play bass without a pick.
I know, and that's the thing. And like, you talk to a lot of like pro musicians, quote unquote, and there's a lot of at least there has been, in my experience, a lot of frowning upon that kind of shit.
Yeah.
I think it's totally acceptable and totally fine, and this song, I feel, calls for it.
Yeah, the attack of it is something that, like, there are people that can do that, like, doing a traditional bass style, or, slapping at certain places or whatever, but like, pick attack is a real thing on the bass. Like, there are certain things that call for it. Absolutely.
Can you use a pick for the harmonic section in the bridge?
I don't, and that's another funny thing. I don't know, in this particular tune, actually, I palmed the pick to do the harmonic parts. But there are other tunes where I swap back and forth mid-tune, not because of what the song calls for, but because of my own technical ability.
Fair enough.
That's me. I'm way less so than you, but I've played bass numerous times for projects, and like I can do real real bassist stuff, but sometimes I'm just like, fuck it, I'm gonna guitar player the hell out of this shit, and it works fine. That's fantastic. Paul, any thoughts on this one?
Honestly, this is one that I put in a really similar camp to Loud, at least from my perspective. Pretty new to it, but it's just like the other heavy hitter. You start and you go. I mean, I guess there's a slower or not slower. There's
The
a
mid section,
chiller section in the middle, but it's just fun. And this one's more of like a pace where it feels like, at least from the drummer's chair, like you're like running. Actually, I know it's called Escape, which I guess aligns with like running. But it really just feels with Loud. It feels like you're more like grounded, like banging it out, and with this, with Escape, it feels like you're actively running to me. So it's just fun.
Yeah,
it's loud, and I like it.
it's got that feel to it for sure. I could totally see that. Well, fantastic. Let's go. Let's just keep going here. Let's go to track 3, Dogs. Dav, thoughts on this one?
Yeah, Dogs is definitely where we get a little bit more into the prog place now. Loud and Escape are pretty straight ahead with a couple quirks here and there. Dogs, I mean, it opens up with just a big lick, a straight eighths lick going, and then a chord progression that is non-diatonic. It's this like really fun song to play for me, at least, of just playing a lot of notes. It's fun.
Well, get to kind of scratch your itch a little bit more on the technical side of things a little bit, right?
Yeah. I mean, I love playing Loud, but it's more just like, okay, I can turn off my brain and just rock it. And
that's the one where you jam out and move around on stage. This one's the one where you're looking down and making sure you're actually doing what you need to do. Yeah.
And I have patch changes that I have to hit a lot for each section. I'm just like, okay, I have to buckle down. Here we go.
Here's a question. I think I asked you this before, but I like to get on the technical side of things. Like I said, I'm an amateur, big on amateur musician. I've got a big pedal board just off camera here that I've got like 12 pedals on, 13 pedals on.
Nice.
What's kind of your setup? Do you use like old school pedal board and old school amp? Do you use like a Line 6? Do you use a Quad Cortex? What do you use?
I use a Fractal Axe-FX 3.
Okay, nice.
So, yeah,
nice.
it's more on the quad core kind of stuff. So I just have a big old FC12 there, and then a wah, the EX10 or something, the expression pedal.
Sick.
And this big multi-effects guy that goes straight into the PA, and it sounds great.
That's awesome. I'm so jealous. I still use like everything from like my tremolo, my tube screamer, my whammy pedal, my wah pedal, my volume swell, the whole 9 yards. And like when one cable goes out, it's like a frantic move to just like figure out which of the 64 chords is not working correctly. So I understand why you use that.
Yeah, I've done that. I've been there where just one cable starts buzzing. It doesn't even go out.
Good luck figuring it out too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, what was that? Sorry.
He said we started this call like that.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, you're right. On my end. No, yeah. But yeah, no, this one's definitely like a little bit more in that prog camp for you, definitely instrumentally. Kaiser, what are your thoughts on this one?
This was the first song that I brought to the group that I'd written after we had started recording. And I came up with this really, what I thought was a cool chord progression because like Dov said, it's non-diatonic. And I was like, but it's still accessible. Like, I still like it. So maybe that's a good bellwether, you know? And so I brought it to the guys and they were like, whoa, that is interesting. And I'm like, cool, then that's a good starting point. You think it's interesting. I think it's accessible. Let's go. And so I was really happy to hear that they liked it. Lyrically, it starts to veer more into like a dystopian post-apocalyptic future sort of vibe, like the Black Mirror sort of vibe where you can't tell fact from fiction, what's, reality, what's AI. And so the lyrics kind of talk about that, especially in the chorus, like things feel real, but, you kind of can't tell what's going on. Just take me out. Like, I don't want to be evolved anymore. Just take me out, So it's kind of overwhelmed.
Yeah, it's very Black Mirror and very like, it's funny, you're going to put this out in October and like there's been such an AI push now for everything. Yeah. It probably feels more relevant now than it did a couple of months ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at you being a prophet. There you go. Fantastic. All right. E, go ahead.
Yeah. For me, so I particularly like the chord changes in the verse, and the syncopation between drums and myself.
Yeah.
It's nice. This is
Adds
one
a
of
lot
the
to
first
it. Yeah.
songs that I learned actually when I hooked up with these guys. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what really to say about it other than, I mean, I really like those chord changes. I Another fun fact, it's my least favorite song to perform. Not because of the writing. I've like you were saying, it's one of these songs where you have to like look down or whatever. I don't want to do that on stage.
Yeah,
I
of
do
course.
the opposite of that on stage, me, right? But
Yeah.
it's one of those songs where like you kind of have to pay attention and shit.
Yeah, technicality breeds like less stage presence,
Yeah,
right? Like that's just that's the unfortunate
what
thing,
it is.
right? Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, that's what I got.
Cool. I'll go. Yeah. So for me, and actually, I said this. I think Kaiser asked me, "Is like, what do you think about this song?" Like really early on, in me knowing any of you guys, and the takeaway for me was like, oh, well, first off, it's in 6, which I love 6. I think anybody who is rhythmically inclined loves 6 because 6 can be 12, 6 can be 4, 6 can be 3, 6 can be 2, 6 can be 1. If you don't know what that means, check it out.
Yeah.
But anyways, I just see so many possibilities for ways to play around with things. And like I said, like I like being able to have the ability to change it up and improvise a little bit. And while that song's not super open to that, the end of it repeats this section 6 times. Granted, the first 4 are basically like hard replicas of one of themselves. And then the last 2, guitar and bass, take off and do another line over it. But there's just lots of room there for the drums to kind of get creative and step out and do something different. And so it poses its own technical challenges for the drums, but that's why I like that tune. And that's definitely like what I'm focusing on. It's like, oh, we're in 6, which is the playground of rhythm. So I like it for that reason.
I am also a big fan of like 6/8 and things of that nature because like for whatever reason my brain works in triplets. Like I don't know why. So like whenever if I write a song in 4/4, it's really in 12/8 because I'm always thinking in triplets. Like same deal with 6/8. And so I hear you. It's like just something about it just like scratches a certain part of your brain that you're like, yeah, like this just like fits right into like whatever groove I actually want to do. So that's I totally identify with that.
And I just think
With my way less articulate musicianship, you know.
You always can think of it a different way. And I think for me, that's just like keeping things fresh, especially when you're playing them over and over again. That's paramount to like remaining or maintaining engagement with what you're doing. Otherwise, you start phoning it in, and then it's like, well, why are we doing any of this?
Absolutely. No, that makes sense, and that's the most drummer thing you could possibly say. So that works fantastically. All right, let's go to Adjusted again. Just go ahead and kick this one off.
This one was I think pretty early on the well agreed single of the album, where we were just like, wow, this is relatable, like just as a song. And so I don't think I have anything like very profound to say about the song, except that it like really jumped out as this was the single, and it's a lot of fun. It's another one where I'm not thinking too much and just playing it. It's great.
Is this another voice memo first kind of deal, or
I have a fun story
Yeah,
about
go
this if
ahead.
we want to dig in.
Yeah. I'm here for it.
The one I'm thinking of.
When we first started, we kind of divvied up the voice memos of who's going to take lead about stuff, and I got Adjusted. This can be heard in our arrangement still, but when I heard this, I could not, for the life of me, find where 1 was. And so I created
a voice memo problem for sure. Yeah.
Because I don't think it was counted off or anything like that, and the guitar and the voice could have worked for different ones. So it was an entirely me problem, though. It was fine on your end. I created this really quick demo, and when I showed it to Kaiser, I think he had like an aneurysm or something, because he was like, "That's wrong. That is an objective. That is objective. That's like I think it was like a full quarter note off. Like my 1 was his 4 or something.
amazing?
It was so bad.
Do you still have it?
Somewhere, I think we do, actually.
I would say if you have it, send it to me. I'll throw in a little snippet of it right here as well. Like that would be great.
We wouldn't have the original demo that I did, but we have his, and maybe we can find where I heard it.
Yeah.
But you can hear this in the intro has a different groove than the verse, but we're playing the same part.
Yeah.
And
I love that.
and we have that measure of 3, that turnaround, that's getting it back to the
That's
original.
why. That's a nod.
Oh,
To,
shit.
Yeah, because we're turning it around to the real.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess that's a fun thing about this song, where it started off real
I
weird.
felt really weird too, because like when I started, writing these songs with Dov and Mike, it was like, this is like my time in life. Everything's coalescing. I finally found this guys. We're doing the thing. Everything's great. He's wrong. How do I tell him? It's
It
so
was-
bad. Everything else that we do is great. Oh my God, what do I do? But thankfully,
But
he
yeah,
took it well.
And it made the record
It did make the record.
as that intro, so that was fun.
Lyrically, I love this song so much. It is dense with specific references. It is dense. I'll just go through a couple of them real quickly. There are 3. It's called Adjusted because of a Jiddu Krishnamurti quote, which says, "It is no measure of health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society." And I just sat with that and meditated on it. And I was like, that is so freaking true. And, you work in special education, don't you? So I'm sure you can resonate a lot with that. Yeah. Anyways. So yeah, that was kind of the theme of a lot of the lyrics. And then the chorus, there are 2 more. It's the collection of the moments pulling the wells, right? Yeah. It's the collection of the moments pulling the wells. That is a reference to Saul Williams. He became famous with that song, I got a list of demands written on the palm of my hand. That guy.
Yes.
He was in a Nike commercial. Anyway,
Yes.
he came and spoke at one of my classes in college. And so he made a profound impact on me. And one of the things he said was, humanity is like a system of wells. Everybody, I'm a well, Dov's a well, Emilio's a well, Paul's a well, Brandon's a well. We're in individual silos like that. But the cool thing about wells is if you go deep enough, they're all connected, dude. They're all connected. And so I just kind of tapped into that a little bit. It's kind of a nod to Saul. And then there's a collection of the moments caught. Oh, and then it's the collection of the moments caught by the tail. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And it's the knowledge of the reservoir pulling the wells. Those are the lyrics. So pulling the wells of Saul is the collection of the moments caught by the tail, references Maya Angelou.
Okay.
She talks about the idea of this creative genius and how a lot of those in the West, like us, get it wrong because we feel like we as an individual are trying to become a genius. Just, channel it, try to get to a place where you can be that genius. And she said, that's not it. A genius, if you go back into the mythology of it all, was always an external entity. It exists outside of you, and it's your job to capture it and convey it to everybody else. And so she describes it. Elizabeth Gilbert has a great TED talk about this if you want to go check it out. But she describes it as this like noise rumbling through the distance, like over hills and shit. And you kind of hear it and then you see it and it gets closer and it's running at you and it finally hits you and you have about 2 seconds. And it's your job as an artist to capture it before it leaves. And she says, sometimes it was kind of funny. She goes, sometimes I'm too late, like I'm distracted, and I catch it by the tail. And I try to bring it back in, but it comes out wrong. It comes out like in reverse, and it's shit. Like I never put that out.
Right.
But I thought it was really interesting imagery. So
No, yeah, I've actually seen that TED talk before. I pulled it up and I kind of forgot about it. But yeah, no, those are 3 like sort of synchronous, but not, like sort of different things that you're pulling from that like kind of make your own cohesive thing. That's really cool.
yeah, it's kind of a lot going on. I was a lot going on at that time too. So
Well, I always appreciate when people can kind of pull in different perspectives and different things. And like, even if like, I think it is all cohesive here, but even if it wasn't, somebody would read the lyrics and go, what the fuck does this mean? It's because
Right.
you pulled from 3 completely different influences. So there you go. Right. Like, and that's totally fine. Some of our favorite, it's like if you go to like deep dive a Led Zeppelin lyric and you're like, these guys were fucked up when they wrote this shit, but it was intelligent at the same time. There's like that element of like artistry that's kind of cool, but no, I think it's very cohesive and really cool. Emilio, go ahead and speak to what you think about this one.
I like the way it grooves. Oh no, like I said, I support everything you just said,
okay.
and I agree with everything you just said.
I know it's hard to follow up when someone's like doing a bunch of quotes and shit. You're like, this
No,
shit
no, no,
fucks, you know?
We're friends because we relate on that.
Yeah, yeah.
When I'm playing the music, man, I'm not there.
Right, right.
It's the other side of the coin for me. It makes my head. So I genuinely, when I bop this song makes my head bop a little,
Yeah.
and I do it typically in reverse. Like I don't do the 1, 2. I'm like, like I bop back, and this song makes me do that, and I enjoy that.
It's definitely one of those that can kind of like get you in that groove though. I can feel that from the second you hear it. So I'm right there with you actually. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Paul.
Yeah, I think I'm really aligned with Emilio on this. I will say that it's a deceivingly gnarly tempo.
Yes.
It's something I noticed right away when I first started trying to like learn these tunes. Is I was like, wait, this song like plays itself, and then you're playing, you're like, this is much more challenging than you would think, just because it's like this really uncomfortable spot, just slower than you want it to be.
Yeah, you don't want to rush it, and you don't want to drag either, and it's like fucking
But-
annoying spot.
But when you hit it,
it's great.
Feels great,
Yeah.
and that's something that I've enjoyed. With Emilio, we've got multiple like kind of like little syncopated hits throughout each verse, and it's one of the things like when it really sits nice, it does sit very nice. So,
Yeah, especially in the second verse. Oh, I love that.
Yeah, this song is really, we have a very wide swing. We could have a practice where we play it once and we're like, cool, good job. But then we'll play it, and we'll play it like note for note exactly the same, just hit the groove just right though. And it's just like, that was great.
When it locks in.
Holy.
but it takes like
Yeah.
focus. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like it's just it doesn't sit in the sweet spot for me, and I think most people, and I think that you all have experienced that.
Yeah,
you said.
for sure.
Yeah, and that's a good challenge, right? Like it's kind of tough. Like I think a lot of people, especially like where I come from like the more like heavy music, metal music community, people want to do shit super, super fucking fast, and then they get to a breakdown and they go like quarter speed, right? Like, but like those sort of in between tempos, like you gotta lock in on them, or the song falls apart, right? And I think that's like an underappreciated element of like this kind of this kind of tempo and this kind of song, where like you said, you hear it as a layman, and you're like, this is like a feel good, like, there's a lot going on with the rhythm section. There's a lot going on overall with the song, but like you don't appreciate how difficult it is to kind of sit in the sweet spot of it. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Well, great. Let's go to No Wonder, which again is the sort of like, it's not the first single, but what I would call the lead single of the record at this point. You guys put out a video for it. It's definitely the one I've seen get a lot of traction online. You look at your, again, Spotify and numbers. I try not to use those for everything because music shouldn't be quantified as much as we do it already, but it's got over double or just under double of like your next lead song even on there alone. So this one clearly like people enjoy. I've seen people enjoy it from your socials, from the clips you've posted and all that good stuff, and that's for a good reason. It's a fucking great song. But let's kind of dive into this one first and foremost. What I'd say to you guys, just kind of break it down like we've been doing, and also, why do you think this one kind of, for you all, like, kicked it off better as far as like exposure goes and stuff like that? Because like, it's one of those things you never know which one's going to do it. You might have thought, from your perspective, I would have thought Loud would have done it from my end, and that's why I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about, right? But yeah, just speak to that, Dav, and then we'll go down the line. But just like, we can speak about this song and why you maybe think people have like caught on to this one the most.
Yeah, this one is probably my favorite on the album. So to me, just very selfishly, that's why it did really well. If I would actually think about it, when we were recording it, this is one that did like 6 or 7 different iterations. We did gospel, we did singer-songwriter, we did like just a straight rock tune. I'm missing a bunch, but we did a bunch of iterations before it felt right. And then when we instrumentally found it, it still didn't vocally feel right. And we only really found it when we said, lean into musical theater, lean into like almost Brendan Urie, like that, where he's just like very showman, and you hear that he's taking from like Broadway even. And I think, and once that happened, to me at least, that's when it locked in. I was like, oh, this song really feels good now. And I think that sort of musical theater, that pizzazz, really, people can listen to that and really feel it.
Yeah, I was gonna say this to you guys before we started, but it actually works. So we're talking about it specifically this song. When you put out the video, you know, for me it's easier to share things. Unfortunately, it's easier to share things with people when there's like a video element to it, right? Like you just kind of share a
Yeah.
clip that you share or share the video. And I had several people, both in like music groups or whatever I was sharing, that were like, "Oh, this sounds like if like Panic at the Disco knew how to play prog music." And I was like, yeah, that's kind of what it is, you know, like, because, and it makes more sense that you're talking about like lean into the theatricality. What band did that better of the last 20 years than that band with their, at least with their like most notable album? And not that all not that the whole album sounds like that, but this song you can totally like show that to somebody and get where they get that from. So that's interesting. That's cool that you like notice that when you're talking about that and like even reference that band specifically, you know?
Yeah, for sure. That was a conscious, like, hey, let's keep trying things vocally at least. And
Yeah,
that's when it
absolutely.
clicked. Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool. It's cool to see that happen. Like I said earlier, this song almost didn't make the record for me because I just didn't like it. Hated how my voice sounded. But like Dov said, and like they said, and like you said, the feedback has been overwhelming, both online and when we play it live. That like, yeah, that's my favorite. It just is.
Yeah.
So that's been said to us after the show multiple times for different shows. So it's cool to see that feedback. Lyrically, it's about, I mean, it's pretty clear, but it's about struggling in a relationship, not knowing if it's going to work. It's funny. We actually did part of the music video was shot for LCY Uncut. If you know what that is, our friends in Lawn Chair Youth down in Birmingham do this thing called LCY Uncut. And so we did that. And in the comments, it was so funny because they do almost exclusively hardcore bands. There's a lot of screaming and stuff.
They do all the black and white, like monochrome videos. You see like every band promoting almost in some way. Yeah.
We were lucky enough. Carlisle asked us to do that, and so we did it. But it was funny in the comments. They were like, "I can understand the lyrics. I can understand the lyrics," you know. And it was just so funny, you know.
Well, those videos are great. Like, and yours is great. Like, I love, like, people have, you know, I've seen people like say, not in your guys' videos, but like the hardcore iterations where there's like so many of them that come out that look like that sort of monochrome feel. Like, how many bands are going to do this fucking video? It's like, it looks cool. That's why so many people are doing it. It looks badass.
The formula works.
And no, I was wondering if you had like worked with the same people that had done those, yet like it's obviously like they, like you said, primarily they do hardcore, or I've seen a few like kind of like throwback metalcore bands kind of do the same thing. But it was cool to see your guys' band do that because it works with the music still, like the vibe of it, that kind of like black and white iteration like worked with the song really well. It was cool.
Yeah.
And I'm like not a music video guy either, and I thought it looked really cool.
Well, thanks.
Hell yeah.
Nice. Funny story about this song. I didn't know it existed until I was with you guys for like a month already or something.
No way.
Because I kept getting the songs piecemeal, right? Like, so like first time, no, you didn't show the full thing. So like I learned 3 songs, came in, right? Did the 3 songs. And
I'm sorry about that.
No, it's good.
I don't know if I ever said that. I'm sorry.
And then I came in again because they gave me a 4th song, right? I'm like, cool, this is badass, cool, right? Whatever. And then the drummer at the time, he was like, man, no wonder I still haven't attacked that. I'm like, no wonder about what? And no, the song. And then one of you said, yeah, I'll send it to you. You can hear it on your way home or whatever. But you were almost like hesitant to and shit.
Yeah.
And dude, I heard that song 50 times over the following 24 hours or whatever. Like, it was just like, I was like, holy fuck, why did they hold out on this song? Like, it's my favorite song on the record.
You texted me.
100%. I think it works because it's a journey more than anything, at least to me.
Very dynamic. Yeah.
Yeah, it starts off, you know, with this very, like you were saying, I could see just the one spotlight in a dark theater on this one dude emoting the way he is, right? And then crescendoing into what it does, and then ending with this fucking, you know, like it's a whole journey. And at least for me, it's what made me hit repeat 100 times because I loved the journey, you know?
I have a short thing about that, actually. What's out at the time of this interview is a radio edit, but by the time that this is out, the full thing will be there. the intro.
Oh shit! No one's
Yeah.
heard this.
Yeah, no
That's
one's
right.
heard that intro.
Well, get
Well,
ready
now
for
they-
the journey.
Now you have.
Now they have.
Yeah, I was gonna say so they
Yeah.
haven't heard the piano intro, right?
Yeah, there's the
Right?
there's
yeah,
the-
yeah.
that slow piano intro. That's if you listen to the radio edit, it's not there. That's what we
Yeah,
cut out.
that's right. That's right.
That slow piano intro is one take by this guy
Yeah.
right there. We did a second pass of it. We're like, no,
It was
the,
worse.
The first one was it, and we
Nice.
just did it. And we did this whole setup. We set it up for like an hour to be like, okay, we're gonna really stake out here. First try. Okay, cool.
Nice.
See you guys.
Well, it's funny you say that because I had to do a double take because obviously I'd listened to the radio edit version when it came out. You had sent me the album, and I was re-listening through the album. No Wonder came up, and I was like, I don't remember this starting off with this piano and this like
Yeah,
somber feel to
Badass,
it.
though.
And then I was like, oh, but I love that that's in there. Like it adds a lot to it, right? Like so that's kind of cool that it's even like this song that's had the most pull for you guys. When people hear it, they'll still hear on the album. They'll still hear a different iteration, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, for sure.
Cool.
And Paul, your thoughts on it? Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I'm going to say something that's somewhat similar to Dogs. I mean, these songs are completely different, but
Yeah,
the end of it repeats, and I love that because, like, to me, like, I love songs where you set expectations and then kind of break them.
Yeah.
That's like to me, like, what is accessible music that, but still like engages people. And so, like, yes, there's the whole journey throughout the whole song, which I love as well, and like, not to mention lots of like little hits that the whole group is doing throughout like the initial verse. But when you get to the end section, it's just kind of like this big open, like anthemic, like jam that I kind of want to keep going, but I think it doesn't need, like, it's good where it is because it like leaves you wanting more and wanting to replay it 50 times in a day or whatever. So I love it for that reason. And it's just, yeah, it hits right. It feels good. And there's room to express yourself as a drummer, but at the same time, just playing the jam at the end there stands alone, and so you don't need to. I'm actually challenged by that. Like, how much do I want to try to add to what's going on versus just letting it be what it is? And I honestly, the more I'm playing it, the more I'm like, I don't think I need to do anything else
Yeah.
playing this here. So
I think there's a life lesson in there. So
Yeah, there's something.
I'll say this too, that end
Well-
section from a musical perspective is a complete mind fuck.
It is.
That's as a musician, it's fun to do that too.
Yeah, I tried explaining it to someone who didn't get music, like who wasn't a musician,
No,
just
good luck
like
with that.
music. And I was like, I didn't realize how dumb it was.
yeah,
Of like, it's an ostinato, but it's not. And then there, like, it changes keys mid-section, but it also, each time we hit the hits, it's at a different part of the thing. It's just like,
It's very Haylofty.
and I hated explaining that to someone.
well, and I'll say when I learned it, I was like, I have no idea what's going on right now.
Yeah.
And then I started writing it out, and I was like, oh, it's 8 bars looped 3 times.
Yeah.
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 Like,
Yeah.
It's just
it
like,
was so, it's funny. Yeah.
Yeah.
The way it changes is more like disorienting than
exactly.
what's actually
It's a
going
complete
on.
mind
I
fuck.
have
Right.
mine similar, who is just a real big music head. I used to be in a band with him 15 years ago, and he texted me. He goes, what?
He's a PhD or something?
Well, I think he's going to get his master's in music.
Yeah.
And he texted me and he goes, what the fuck time signature is at the end of No Wonder? And I was like, you're not going to believe this. It's 4/4.
It's just.
And he was like, fuck you, man. I was like, no, fucked off. He wrote that line.
It's kind of like I don't know if you've ever heard interviews of Meshuggah, where Meshuggah, people get so mad at them because they're like, people will be like, "What time signature are you doing?" And they're like, "It's everything we write is 4/4 to us," and it's like,
yeah, like 90% of their music is just 4.
I remember the
There's a
first time I
couple-
heard them say that in an interview, and I was like, "Fuck you! No, it's not." That's how they view it, so that's what it is. And you're
They
like,
just ignore the bar line so often.
yeah.
Great.
It's in 4/4, but we're just doing 19 bar,
Yeah, iterations of it. Yeah,
phrases or whatever. It's like whatever, man. But I do have to say, both No Wonder and Banner Fair, which for me, I've said this on this podcast so many times over the course of doing these track breakdowns, but usually the first track and the last track of an album tend to be my favorite because the first track, like Loud is like this anthemic, attention puller. You're punching hard. You're showing people what you can do out of the forefront. You want to get people's attention. And the 10th track tends to be the indulgent song of the band, where it's like, we've given you what we think you'll like. This is what we're just going to do for us, right? But for me, what's interesting about this record is my favorite are the middle tracks. They're No Wonder and Banner Fair. And I can't really quite say why, but it's just like the ones that I go back to. And like when I was listening through, I would go back to after I did like an album listen, would go back and listen to those two a couple of times. So that brings us into Banner Fair. And I'm saying that as someone that knows nothing about the songs, just like enjoys them for what they are for multiple listens. But let's get into Banner Fair a little bit. And this is another single that you released prior. Just kind of speak to this one a little bit. Just give me the breakdown as usual, starting with Dav. Just tell me your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, actually, that single that was out, that's more of a demo. That was a placeholder.
Right, that's true. Yeah, right.
So it's very cool. We're gonna have a whole new
Mix.
version. Yeah, a mix of it. Yeah, it'll be fun. But yeah, this one is a very dynamic song. We're playing a lot with the spatial reverbs and delays going a little bit, and getting a little more ethereal in a lot of places. And I guess musically, at least, the song is mainly just playing between 6 and 4. Of like, is this section in 6/8 or is it in 4/4 or is it yes, kind of. And for a lot of it is yes.
Like yes to both.
Yeah, yes to yeah. It's kind of wiggly wobbly. But yeah, this one is just, to me at least, playing this one, I have like, yeah, on my pedal board, I'm just delayed out to infinity. These guys might be like playing some music. I'm just out here just like playing some tremolo parts, just like grooving. It's great. But this one is actually mainly musically. When we did the demos, this one was almost unchanged from your.
Yeah. I wrote this song when I was living overseas. I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Ukraine from 2011 to 2013, and I wrote the song in my apartment there, just with an acoustic guitar and garage bands. And I didn't know shit about production, and I still don't know shit about production. But I recorded enough of this song to give to Dov and Mike at the time. And like he said, not a whole lot has changed, which I'm proud of. So to hear you say that you keep coming back, that warms my heart. I feel like this song is the first song that I've ever written ever, that just really encapsulated a lot of the emotion that I wanted to convey as an artist. And so I'm happy that it made the record. That's all I'll say. The lyrics were an experiment to me. I was listening to a lot of Sigur Rós and Bon Iver at the time. Both artists tend to not really use real language in their song. They just take syllables that sound nice together and smush them and use them. You know, what's his name? The guy from Sigur Rós, forget his name. Anyway, he speaks a lot about his language that he invented, Hoplandic. You think it's Icelandic because they're from Iceland. Nope, it's Hoplandic. He made it up. It doesn't exist. You know? Yes, Jónsi. Yes, exactly.
See, I don't know the fuck I'm talking about.
That's it. Thank you for looking that up. And then, of course, Justin Vernon with Bon Iver has been doing that forever. So, yeah, I don't know what it means, but I like the sounds of the words in that song.
I appreciate that, too, because, like, that is, at the end of the day, it's like, how many artists do you listen to that have a song like that? Like, I remember I've referenced Led Zeppelin a couple of times. I haven't listened to them in a while, despite them, like, being very formative growing up. But, like, some of the songs, like, they would be interviewed, and they're like, we have no idea what that song's about. Like Immigrant Song, people have talked about that one for years, that it's like, it's about nothing. That's what the song's about. It's about nothing, but it sounds great. That's okay to do in music, and that everything needs to be a think piece. Like, it could just be a groove and a vibe, you know? And that's really cool.
I also love that the main, like, the hook is you just, like, singing loudly Banner Fair. Loud, everyone can understand those lyrics, even if we're not listening to them. That just, like, it's very obvious, but Banner Fair is not a thing.
It's not a real phrase that people say.
Yeah, I was trying to figure that out before this record. I was like, what the fuck does that mean?
Tried to be like a fanfare, but you were picturing banners, so just Banner Fair.
Yeah, it was exactly that. It's exactly there.
Yeah, but I love it. It's just the main hook is.
But that's art, right?
Yeah,
like, it doesn't
great.
have to be a real thing to convey emotion and latch on and have legs.
Some of the best songs are exactly that, like I was saying. So yeah, no, that's cool.
Let's see, what can I add? I don't know.
Slaps.
It slaps. No, and it's I can bop to this one too in a different way, right? But it's also the one that to me is the Buckley-esque one. all of them really shines. Is very Grace-ish. You know, that's like
Yeah.
screams that to me.
Nail on the head with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it slaps. You know
Yeah.
what else I can say about that one? Yeah.
Mine will be simple as well. I mean, granted, it's also in 6, but this one doesn't tickle me like most other 6 ones do, just because I'm not doing anything aside from just really trying to maintain the vibe.
Yeah.
And the vibe to me is just like, it's very swimmy. It feels great. The audience loves it. Like everything chills out and focuses on what's going on, because it does, like, it engages you and draws you in because there's so much space.
Yeah.
And that's so important in music. Like less is more almost always. And so, yeah, there's still moments with this playing happening in it, but to me, yeah, it's just like you're swimming in it. And that's the experience that I enjoy about that song.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that hits it pretty well. Let's keep moving on here. Track 7, Crooked. What do you got to say about this one?
And this is my like dark horse song. I think this is a great song. I really enjoy this song, but it just, we always overlook it with like promotions, with singles, with even playing it live. It's like, I still love it. It's like, it's a cherished thing. I don't know. It just feels nice. Even my parts are just so very simple, so very easy, but I'm just like happy and moving around. That's what I got. Feels good.
Nice. Yeah, this song's interesting because there's 2 lead vocalists on it. I was accompanied by a former member of Hayloft named D. Melendez, D'Artagnan Melendez. Great musician in his own right, and all around good guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we sang this one together. Lyrically, it's just an old poem that I wrote again when I was a Peace Corps volunteer. I was sitting on my rooftop looking at the clouds for an afternoon, just daydreaming. And you know, when you stare at a certain point in the sky for a while, you kind of like get imaginative. And so this song is that.
Very like mindful. It's like a very mindful song, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And it's fun. It was actually, I'll give a nod to Mike, who isn't here, but very much a part of this record. The bones of this song are actually one of his ideas. It's the first song in the record where it came from a different musical source than me, and then it got Hayloftified along the way. But yeah, I'll give a nod to his contribution in that way to this song too.
Absolutely. Awesome. Emilio.
I particularly like the contrast in the way the music moves between the verse and then the chorus, right? Like bass line, for example, you know, ding, right? Like that again, there's
groovy.
right?
Yeah.
But then it pushes ahead of the beat. There's that walking line in the chorus. Ding, 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 ding. You're pushing a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know, that is fun for me, you know. And we've rehearsed it a couple of times where he and I are doing the 2 lead vocals,
baby.
which, you know, it's a fun tune. I'm actually looking forward to playing it live. Actually, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Do you like, so have you in the past, have you done like vocals live in that way prior?
If you mean, if we disregard whether it was done well or not, yeah.
You should look
You and me both, brother. Yeah.
You should look up his Instagram handle sometime, and you'll have a laugh.
I'll
just
Yeah. No,
Just gonna let
no, it's his handle is not a vocalist.
nice. I love that so much. That's great though. Paul, any thoughts on this one?
Very minimal. I'm new enough that this is one of the tunes I have absolutely not tackled at all. Given it a couple listens, it sounds very playful, and I appreciate hearing the rest of the guys' input on it, because that gives me more like, I hate using the term ammo, but more context. More context.
Yeah, absolutely.
To approach it with. So, but yeah, no, it's a good tune that, it's a little bopper, like you said, and I like the way that the chorus
contrasts with
the verse.
I also like that it has this song is ripe with some golden nuggets in there, some just Easter eggs. To find. So I'm very happy that we just threw them in.
You let it go.
Like the marimba part is actually, I think it's Morse code for the chorus. The marimba part in the verse is the chorus lyrics in Morse code.
That's hell.
No kidding. I love that.
Except it's the
Sorry,
I misheard the lyrics, so it's
Amazing.
Wrong.
So like I said, I've played like in a lot of like heavier projects, And to figure out rhythms for breakdowns we hadn't played before, I downloaded a Morse code app and would type words or short sentences to see what it was in Morse code, and then I would turn that into a breakdown. Or use that for rhythm for writing a riff. Like I would actually use Morse code to write music, actually. Yeah, so it's definitely useful. Yeah, that's cool that you did that.
Oh, actually, because I'll say the other one too. The marimba part is actually the binary code. The Morse code are the fills that the bass and drums do in the verse of our old band name.
Oh yeah. Oh my God, I forgot about that.
Which is what?
AVOS. So Avos or
Avos.
We were,
okay.
But it had already been taken, so we didn't go with it. But I was like, oh, we need something that works there, so I put AVOS in.
I love this. This is all just like top
weird hits.
This is all just like top nerd shit for people of like using Morse code and binary code to write music.
This record is rife with
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
The more I've talked with him about things, like I point out my like little discoveries that are never that deep. They're just like much broader than that. And then Dom's like, oh, well, actually, let me tell you.
Yeah, by the way.
And then it's just like, holy shit. Like there's just layer upon layer of that.
Yeah.
On like almost every.
That's fucking Hayloft.
But those are the kinds of things that can end up making things unique, right? Because who the fuck else is really thinking of doing it in that way? You know what I mean?
Then there's the other side of it where it's like, hey, you know that second time around, let's do it 1/8 note off. Just the last time.
Yeah, just
because.
Because fuck you, that's why.
Yeah.
And then you gotta
we'll do it instead of 6/8. Fuck you. We'll do 5/8. How about that? You know,
one bar.
The
for one
clap
bar.
in Adjusted,
Yeah.
claps at the end of Adjusted. At the song ends and you hear a clap. And when we brought this to our mixing engineer, he was like, "Is that a mistake?" And we were like, "Nope, that is by design. Listen to the clap section isolated."
Yeah.
It is Rite of Spring.
Yeah, it's the Rite of Spring.
Which, sorry, I'm going to jump in on this too. Back to another conversation. Anything can be in 4. This is nerdy classical percussion stuff. But the Rite of Spring is super mixed meter really hard. It is a classical percussion orchestral excerpt. And there's one camp that approaches it by rewriting it in 4/4 because it's just easier to think of a syncopated rhythm in 4 than it is to try to count these meters. Yeah. And there's all sorts of opinions on why that is a good or a bad idea. But anyways, awesome that I did not know that.
And before the bass drop too, there's a like a little glockenspiel part. It's, I think, Rite of Spring in reverse or something. We did some weird stuff to
In Adjusted.
Yeah, in Adjusted.
Not Banner Fair.
Yeah.
Or Crooked.
Or wherever we are.
Yeah. Sorry, to get back to the main
No,
thread.
you're fine, but that's good to bring those things up. Yeah, getting into Dragon Lamps, another one that I believe, right? Like this one was put out ahead of time. It's hard for me to remember which ones I heard on Spotify and which ones I heard.
Yeah, this has
Google
been
Drive.
out.
So yes, this one is out. Speak to this one.
This one was fun. This had a bunch of inspirational camps that it came from people like Paramore all the way up to Thank You Scientist. They were inspirations to this song and a few more. It's a lot of fun. It's a good time. I think it's very light and fluffy of a song.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's fun. I was just again, Peace Corps time. I wrote it in Ukraine, and I just had my one acoustic, and I was just playing around, and I was like, this is kind of cool. I just started dating this new girl who I'm now married to, and so that's fun. But yeah, we were boarding a train, and we like almost missed it. We were like running to catch this train, and we finally caught it. And somebody said, I was like, I can't catch my breath, and she was like, do you need crutches for your breath? And I was like, crutches for your breath? Weird. And so I kind of like took that into my journal and I was like, crutches on your breath. I'm playing with it. And that's now a line in the song. And the rest of it was kind of built around that one little moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that you were able to pull like a little moment. That's the other thing too. Everyone needs, I mean, we've got our phones with our notes app, but somebody's got to find a way. You hear a little weird thing, you got to jot that shit down. That's how you get an idiosyncratic lyric, right? Like that's really cool. Emilio.
Yeah, going back to what Dov said, it's very light, kind of fluffy. It's more of a jumpy song to me, though.
Yeah,
it's like makes you kind of do one of these.
Yeah, it's
whatever. It's a fun jam. It's fun live too. Slaps.
As the kids say, it does slap. Yeah, absolutely. And Paul, anything else on this one?
Yeah, But it's a lot of fun, and you kind of get to evolve that feel from like right from the get-go. It's really minimal and it gets slightly more built up, and then by the very end, which is like feels kind of like a party, and actually I think it is recorded audio from a wedding.
Yep, from a wedding.
But anyways, yeah, it feels like a party, and like it's by far the most kind of happening spot. So lots of fun to play, and yeah, that's it.
Yeah, it seems like a good one. I don't know if you guys do this one like consistently live or whatever, but it seems like it would be one that would like cater well to a live performance for sure within a set.
It's gone well when we've done it live.
It's a very fun one to play live. Yeah.
Yeah, I would imagine so. All right, we got the last 2 tracks here. Let's go to Rosebud. And just kind of break this one down for me.
To me, this one's the most cinematic. I mean, we even open it up with just like a storm noise and a synth coming in. We have birds at the end coming in. We kept trying to just build layer and layer and layer. So it'll start very small and then build out a harmony, build out another harmony, build out a second keyboard, build out instruments. So it has this really big build. It's a song of builds. Great. It's very nice to listen to.
Cinematic is a good word for this one. I think it feels like a movie score almost a little bit.
Yeah, it really, yeah, it does.
Yeah, this is the last song on the record that I wrote in Ukraine. And like Banner Fair, it was presented to Dov and Mike in almost the current form. So all those harmonies were there, all the acoustic stuff was there. We added the piano later, we added some guitar stuff and synth later, and this cinematic elements. What's funny about this song is it didn't have lyrics for the longest time. It was just a for the whole thing. And it finally came crunch time. We're like, we're going to put this thing out. I was like, oh shit, I got to write lyrics for this one. And so I went home and created this sort of whimsical story, and it became what it is.
Very cool. Yeah, it seems like you had a lot of creative juices flowing while you were over doing volunteer work in Ukraine, which like I know obviously that was a couple of years ago, but there's been a lot of volatile things there for quite some time, as you well know.
Love. What else?
It's time of my life, music. Yeah, time of my life.
So I guess it's just a good I mean circumstance for you to at the very least pop out great songs.
There was something to it, man. Something in the water, maybe.
Or just being, halfway across the globe from where you've been is probably another way to really influence you, right?
Somewhere, just not to take too long. I know we've been talking for a while, but I've met and befriended a lot of other Peace Corps volunteers, and everybody has their own motives. Most of them either just wanted to pad their resume and go work in government or go to grad school. Some of them just want to party for 2 years on the government's dime. So it's mainly those 2 camps, and that's fine. But for me is this third camp, which is like, I feel the creativity bubbling up inside of me, and I know that I can't do it here around all the noise. I need to remove myself from friends and family and just go have my cabin in the woods timeline. And so I was able to do that. And, obviously some things hit, there are some things that haven't, but yeah, some of it did. So I feel really thankful for that chapter in my life.
Yeah. Cool that, obviously on top of the actual work you were doing that,
that was really cool too. Maybe I'll come back on and talk about that.
Yeah, we can talk about that. We can absolutely talk about that a different time. We've actually
sorry, man. Jesus.
We've talked about doing that, so that would absolutely be cool to do sometime. But yeah, no, I mean I could see that just a different headspace, different environment, different part of the world, all that could really like break you out of, if you were in a writer's block, that would be the way to certainly break you out of that for sure. Emilio, anything to say on this one?
Rosebud, I put this in the same category as No Wonder, although they are vastly different songs. I think cinematic is a good word, but it's another one where the journey is what I think makes it. It starts off like you were saying, there's the birds and the whatever and all these layers as you build up, but then at the end of it, that it's almost like you're at a festival and there's beach balls being thrown around and there's confetti coming down, and like it's a whole journey that I think, at least with me, it really resonates with me and makes me feel good. I have no idea again what the lyrics are about, but musically it makes me feel real good.
It's okay.
That's
the point.
And I guess that's what I have to say about it. It's in the same No Wonder journey kind of camp.
You're never going to offend me by not knowing the lyrics, because I understand that you can have the best lyric in the world with a shitty melody and have it fall flat.
Well, that's the thing. With most songs, I can hum you the melody to all of them.
Right.
For sure.
100%. But you can have a great melody and a shitty lyric, and it still works.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
melody's great.
Right, yeah, for
So
sure.
it's actually a compliment to me.
Right on.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're actually saying the music's so good that you just get swept up in it. That's the
Yeah.
yeah, that's the
I
that's
love
the reality
music.
of it. Yeah. Paul, anything else to say about this one?
Sure. So first I'll say I listen to music that is from like all different genres, and like there's good and there's bad from all of them. This song is of a genre that I would historically say I would never have listened to. And that being the context, I think this is the song on this album that left probably one of the bigger impressions on me, where I was like, this is really good. And it's everything they've described about like the journey and whatnot, but like there's something about it that like I don't know, I would describe as like warm.
Warm, yeah.
Like it's like and like I don't want to get like too hokey, but it's like I don't know, the concept of love. I realize it's called rose, but rose and love and like blah blah blah. Maybe that's what you're going to.
There's another definition.
But,
No.
but but what I'm getting at with it is that like I don't know, love is more complicated than that. This feels like the purely like warm side of things in life that are good. And like you said, when you get to the end of it, it's just like it's like the party side of that, but it's still like really grounded feeling. So anyways, I wasn't expecting to like it. I remember listening to it, and it started, I was like, okay. And I kept going. I was just like, okay. And by the end, I was like, I think I really liked that. And I was like, I think I need to listen to it again because I'm not sure. Like, I shouldn't have liked that as much as I think I did, and
Right.
I think that was the impression it left on me. So I don't know. That,
So the band won you over on a song that you would otherwise typically not like because it was so good, is what you're saying.
well,
right?
maybe except for the band had already technically we had agreed.
We were
prior to me ever hearing that song.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Paul's fulfilling his contract by saying positive things. No, I'm just like. Well, no, I think I agree though. Like this is like, for me, as I've said too many times already on this episode, like I tend to listen to angry, aggressive music, but like a good song is a good, I think to your point, a good song is a good song is a good song. If you hear or like what Kaiser was talking about, if I'm not like a country person, but if I hear a really good country song, I still like it. Right. If I hear a really good pop song, I still like it. So like when something's like at a top tier level, it really doesn't matter what genre it is. You're going to find something that you appreciate about it. So that just kind of speaks to the musicianship, right? So that brings us to the last song of the record, Kill the Vampire, which again, this one, like I was pulled into, I found, I don't know, I think this is one of the most, what's the word I'm looking for? The song has like,
Slaps.
yeah, we'll go with that. It slaps. Yeah, I'll stop bearing the lead here. Just go ahead and speak to your piece on it. Start us off here with this one.
This is, man, I don't know how to even describe this song. I love it. It's great. It's so very different to me. It might even like feel very Haylofty, but like to me, being inside of it and listening to it, writing it, playing it, it feels so different. And I think it's really cool that we were able to do that it still feels Hayloft. Then the obvious cool part to me would be the ending, where we have this chant that's going on, but then all around it we have lines from all the other songs
And then some.
and even some of the demos that he sent us way back that didn't make the record. We have a couple lines in there, and then one of the songs we did scrap off the record. So we have just all of these little
Nuggets.
these little nuggets from different songs that was a lot of fun to like arrange in there and orchestrate that.
It goes back to a little bit of what I was talking about with like an ender on an album where like you really get to throw in whatever the fuck you want on it if you really want to, and like in a cool way where you're kind of doing like Easter eggs or homages to songs that maybe will never even fully exist, right? Like that's kind of cool. That's like a really cool self little thing, even if it's just if it's self-indulgent. It's not self-indulgent in a bad way. It's like what like kind of appreciating your own process of creating the album that you put out, because putting out an album means there are songs that meet the cutting. If there aren't songs that like get left on the cutting room floor, that means you probably should have spent a little more time on it, right?
Agreed.
For sure.
So like that's kind of cool that you can still give a little bit to those songs that like you may use later on. You may use little snippets of it you may never use again, but that's really cool. Yeah, absolutely.
I will say though, the thing that I'm proud of that we were able to do for that last section is it doesn't feel overindulgent that we did that. because I think the key was having that repeated sung line. So the listener always has something to like focus
Latch
on.
on to.
And
Yeah.
that's the catchy part. That's the accessible part. And then those are just the little sprinkles around it. And I was
And you got
really happy.
you got this big ass like crunchy guitar that comes in and
This
just
big
slaps you
build,
loud
right?
for a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool.
And it's also in like 13 something. How do
The
you catch
vocals.
that?
Well, yeah, because we're in 3, the instruments, and the vocal is, I forget.
something.
It's something ridiculous that lines up at the end of it all. Yeah.
Yeah.
Our thinking was like, okay, we have the vocal line and we have the instrument line. What's the math where they meet? It's going to be that long. Okay, cool. We'll figure it out.
That's when you know you're doing prog, when you got to do equations to figure out if things work out. Yeah.
Lyrically, the song's funny. I will say again, this is the other song on the record that originated from Mike's brain, and then he brought it to us, and we Hayloftified it. I didn't have lyrics for it because it was his brain, so we wrote the lyrics together. And I was like, tell me about something in your life, and I'll just like write lyrics from it. And so he literally just described an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I was wondering if it was going to be something like that from the title. Yeah.
It's exactly that.
Yep.
And so that's what the lyrics are, and I'm here for it. So I've never seen an episode. Like, I'm singing about something I've never seen. But yeah, so.
That just shows your chops as a lyricist, you know? There you go.
It is also generic enough or general enough. It's not, if you know Buffy, yeah, it works. But also if you don't, it kind of like still like works.
Yeah. It's free. Take it easy. It's free.
Yeah.
You don't have to see what you need as subject.
Still in the lyrics.
We haven't performed it, okay?
Yeah,
so, you know,
yeah.
maybe by this time we have, but.
Yeah, you got to talk about the future. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so weird to do these pre-recorded things where you're like, yeah, now actually, but in the future, which is the past. Emilio, any other thoughts on this one?
I'm looking forward to playing this one too. This one we've played all of them, I think, except for Crooked and Vampire, right? Have we?
And Rosebud.
We've never performed Rosebud.
Not live. We played it here.
We have we rehearsed.
A little bit here.
Yeah.
I'm really looking forward to it. I love the ending for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's a good closer for both the record and just in general.
Agreed.
I wasn't part of the writing process for it or anything like that. So all I have is what we've done so far.
Yep.
Just little on this song. But yeah, definitely enjoy it and echo everything they said.
Yeah, definitely just like a good closer that you could also see being a great closer from a live set, right?
Yeah, for sure.
The last thing I'll say real quick before we jump to Paul, and if this is what you're about to say, I'm so sorry, but I don't.
You could just say "same" after it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
For sure.
No, how you were saying, like somebody was saying, loud is the clear opener. I think it was you, maybe.
Yeah.
To me, this was always the clear closer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like just very bookend of a song. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, my take on it was cool. Not that. No,
Good.
Yeah. I just thought throwing in a baseball closer that was a yank. Anyways, this is another conversation. It's completely unrelated to this. Okay. That's why I said cool. It's like nice, stuff it and move on with something that's constructive here.
Shit.
No, so anyways, I listened to this. I've not played this, but I just remember, hearing the whole song, and then when I got to the end, it was just like, oh, this deserves to be played in this stadium. Like, I can't wait for the day. I hope that happens. This band, anybody else is involved in that, it's just, people need to be chanting along with the vocals at the end, and this needs to be absolutely massive. I completely, it was like crystal clear. I hope that's the case for everybody else too.
Yeah, which definitely showcases that it's a great ender to that point to kind of like circle back to that, right? Like it's kind of got like that big, like you could see, like how some bands will bring out now, like some massive bands will bring out like a choir or something like that. Like you could see that with this song for the ending to like really punch it home. So what I'm saying is you guys have to pay a choir if you're going to. No,
exactly. I'm ready.
Well, overall, this album, absolutely fantastic. I think anybody that enjoys anything from, honestly, pop music to prog to indie rock to, from the kind of hard rock metal camp that I tend to come from, like there's something there for you, whether it's like the instrumentation, the vocals, the delivery, the songwriting, there's something there for you. So again, Tomato will be out when this is out. It'll be out the Friday before. So definitely check it out on all streaming platforms. Thank you to Dav, Kaiser, Emilio, and Paul for coming on. I really appreciate you breaking this down so well and so deep. Go ahead and speak to, I just got a couple of questions to kind of tie things off here. Just what's going next for the band, where people can find you, and what song from the album plays at the end of the podcast. So again, what's going forward, where people can find you, and I always play a song at the end. You guys have to pick the song that plays at the end of the show for people to hear, maybe for the first time.
Yeah.
Five?
Yeah, you know Dave Brubeck.
Next, next is a couple things. We're trying to, right now we have this patch of April and a bunch of May where we're working on our live show, where we're trying to get like lights and all that stuff also synced up with us playing, some screens to play with. So we're really trying to like get the live show better and be able to present the music that we play live aptly as we want it to be presented, as well as on the back end, we have new members. So who haven't been on any of this recorded music. So we have, I don't even know at this point, 7 or 8 demos now.
Nice.
Maybe 9 even,
Yeah.
but just demos that 2 and a half of which we've already performed live.
Mhm.
They're already ready to go, and a couple that are really close, and then a couple that are just right at the seed level of their demo-ness. So yeah, we have a lot coming.
Absolutely
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. We're looking to tour regionally. We expect to do a lot of that this summer. The cool thing about Nashville is kind of centralized, so we can go up to Chicago, we can go down to, Georgia, New Orleans, we can go to St. Louis, we can go to the East Coast. And so if you're in any of those areas, good chance we'll be coming at you.
Likely be coming your way. Yep.
Yeah.
We do have some shows in May coming up.
Yeah.
We got a
A
festival.
little festival coming up too.
And then we got a couple of local shows here in Nashville. The live show, we're doing a full production rehearsal next week. So yeah, that's fun. And then recording the new stuff, man. Looking forward to it.
I don't have anything to add to that. They summarized it, and I'm just.
Paul, where can they find us?
Where can they find us?
You mean socials?
Yeah, dude.
Oh, I am the worst person
I know.
to describe all of
They did Kaiser.
I got it. It's Hayloft's band on all social media, right? Like, isn't that is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. We're on TikTok and IG and Facebook and Spotify and Apple and
There you go.
anywhere you stream music. We're playing a show in Nashville on the 23rd at Cobra. We're playing Jorts Fest here in Nashville with some pretty heavy hitters on that lineup. I was happy to be added to that one. And I think you should play Rosebud. It's probably going to be the next one that we're going to be promoting or have been promoting by this time. So yeah, I'd say go listen to Rosebud. It's a great song.
I'm not mad at that.
Works for me. All right. And again, all of those links, first and foremost, for everybody listening, will be in the show notes below. Make sure to follow Hayloft at all those places. Make sure, first and foremost, to check out the new album, Tomato Tomato, which is out now on all platforms, and support the band and see what they're doing going forward, because they very well could be coming to a show near you. So thanks to Dav, Kaiser, Emilio, and Paul for doing this. We're going to play Rosebud off the new album at the end of this on the Powerless Podcast. Thanks so much for doing this, guys. I really, really appreciate your time.
Likewise, Brandon. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us.
Far into the eyes and wistful sighs, the pitter-patter, tit-for-tatter, ragged tavern, mad and dare resides. He'll never speak, never catch his eye to find out why his popping garments aren't at all simply fashioned by a little child. A wild child. What's it for, Rosebud? ain't creeping, I can paint its picture soon. I'll see it through. Now return our air fully aware. Soft sounds contemplating round. Soft matters. What's it for Rosebud? What's it for Rosebud? Never say. What remains unsaid is never dead. It's clinging fast and never vapid, never torn nor tried nor overfed.